My name is Josh. I'm a Marine Corps veteran and creator of Win the Night.
Hey, how's it going? My name is Deian, also a veteran. That's about it.
And this is Reddit Therapy.
Hit it.
You go for it.
Hit it.
You're on camera. You got to welcome the people into the...
Well, it's not a podcast anymore.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah,
He is
okay.
right.
All right. Well, yeah, but
We'll
like
just start it
also
like this.
there's no camera pointed towards
I'm
me.
not even.
So,
I'm not even the host.
yeah,
for
you
all I
are
know.
though. You're like the main...
I'm just sitting here. I'm
You're-
just a dude that walked in.
Yeah, no, you're the main cheese. You're the main guy.
You that guy.
You're
That
that
guy,
guy.
But you're welcome back to. To be fair, though, we are doing something new. This is a new Reddit series, and we have Deian back on board.
What's up?
Welcome back, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
We're going to talk about some things, mental health things. I know that Reddit a lot of times is a good place to find a lot of thoughts that people have that they don't speak otherwise to anybody else. Mental health groups that form to talk about different topics that maybe they're not comfortable talking about with their own friends and family. It's like it's the internet. You know, it's you can be anonymous.
First one here today is called Not Feeling Heard. OP says, I'm not sure if this is the right sub for this, but I need to get this off my chest. I'm 15. I turned 16 this year. Basically, anything that can go wrong in my life has indeed gone wrong. I suffer from anxiety and insecurity. I don't like the way I am or how I look. 6 or 7 years ago, I lost someone close to me to an unexpected heart attack. None of us have seen it coming, and she's never experienced any health problems before that. It all hit us so hard. I'll be honest, I don't want to live anymore. Everything just hurts. It feels like they're only getting worse during what people call the best years of my life. They also said, my uncle won't even look at me anymore. My sister hates me. So it sounds like they're kind of, maybe putting a lot of that on themselves in that regard, but it also seems like maybe the family's pretty hard.
So it sounds like a person who's feeling pretty like overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And because what I hear from that is like a bunch of things compiling.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then this, and then this, and then this. So clearly something has been happening for a long time.
And clearly they feel like they've been ignored.
Yeah.
Too.
Well, not being heard is it's like the
Yeah.
main point, right?
Definitely.
The title.
Yeah.
I could tell you that, like, it sucks when the people you live with, because those are the people you live with are, in my opinion, the people that know you the best. And you would hope that those people are the ones who should understand you the most.
Yeah.
And yet I've found that that's usually the opposite. Like in my situation, like I grew up with 5 other siblings, and those people know exactly what we've all gone through. Like we've all experienced a similar, similar battle in our family, and trauma does affect people differently. So there's going to be a difference in response, but you'd think, right? Like I always used to think that, well, those people will understand me the most. And it's been the opposite. Like the problem is you don't know yourself where they come from at that point. So you just feel a certain level of maybe hatred or anger or sadness or jealousy or whatever it is you feel, and you think that it's something else. It always feels like the surface thing. Like it always feels like, well, I'm angry at you, so I'm angry because you're this, because you said this, and you think it's about that thing, but you're not mature enough yet to ask yourself where it really comes from.
Correct. When you start the conversation, why don't you like apologize? Hey, I'm sorry if you feel that way. This is how I am. This is how I react to things. So instead of you having walls up, I have my walls up and basically throwing tennis balls at each other until you find a weak spot. Why don't I started soft, I guess, open or
Understanding.
Not even understanding. Like when you start apologizing, you're more vulnerable. So I started like that, and then you're gonna start being vulnerable, and then we're kind of the same.
Well, vulnerability is the hardest thing to achieve with people who you feel might be judging you, because like if the argument is that I feel like I'm not being heard, then vulnerability is kind of impossible in that scenario of like, I'm going to be vulnerable to you, but then you're going to kind of deflect me. Like you're not going to listen to me. Like, why would I be vulnerable? There's that train of thought. So how would we manage that? Like,
I think we might be able to find, next question definitely will kind of tie into that. So how do I allow myself to be happy? I can't seem to allow myself to enjoy life. I place restrictions on myself, and I can't push past negative associations of my own creation. I will think something is bad when it's not, and suddenly that thing is a no-go area for me forever. I purposely ruin things for myself, self-sabotage, pull things apart until they're ruined, etc. Man, you'd think that I wrote this, Josh. This is crazy. I didn't, but you'd think that I wrote this.
I was going to ask.
This is me.
I'm constantly terrified of making the wrong choice, of even making mistakes in general. I'm terrified of doing the wrong thing, saying the wrong thing, wearing the wrong thing, composing the wrong things, etc. I'm terrified of what other people think of me. I'm terrified of what I think of me. I'm terrified of the unknown and have major control issues. I cannot accept uncertainty. I'm on meds. I've done therapy. I just can't allow myself to feel anything other than constant misery. How do I chill the fuck out and just be happy? What's your experience with that, Josh? I know that you've had some experience with some dark times down. I know you've told me you've had
a whole lot
of journey. So
the best way to achieve happiness is not A to B. It's definitely not that. Like whenever you try to achieve that, it doesn't just you do one thing and then everybody loves you. Don't do one job and now you become a millionaire. There are some exceptions. So let's just say you are trying to impress a girl, correct? I wear like some nice shoes. She's going to love me. You cannot do that. Hygiene, the way you dress, the way you smell, the way you talk, the way you being a gentleman. All those things play their part. Not all at once, but when it matters. And if one of them doesn't play out, the other 2, 3, 4 will.
Is happiness the right goal?
Are you trying to be happy, or are you trying to find like fulfillment? Like, what does that mean?
Do you even know who you are yet?
Yeah.
And so then that's why I'm saying, like, I just don't know that happiness is the right goal, because if you're searching for if happiness is your goal, then it's going to be a fleeting goal, because happiness comes and goes. And it doesn't mean being happy or being sad doesn't mean that you're not successful or not fulfilled. Like, it's an emotion just like anger and sadness and frustration is. So then to cling on to something that is not permanent, I think is the part that's unhealthy.
Well, I think in that journey that Deian mentioned, I feel like it's like if you learn to like almost fall in love with that part of the journey, like that constant, almost like evolution, I guess, in a way.
I think as a society, we've done a big disservice to young people to only show, to let's say, for example, to make stars out of people and only show the journeys of like the happy points, because they're like, oh, look at them. They're successful and they're always happy. They're always doing great things, and they don't show the hard parts because that's taboo, right? Because anger and sadness and frustration is not, it doesn't attract people. And so it's at what point do you tell the truth, right? Like, I think the big thing is you have to be, first, who are you? I think that's a good place to start. Happiness is going to come and go. And I think to find yourself, you have to accept that happiness comes and goes. And I've learned the most from when I was sad, from when I was angry, from when I was frustrated. That's when I've gotten the most answers about who I am and why I am the way I am, because I was like, why do I feel like this? Because the journey is different for everybody. I can't sit here and be like, well, you just need to do this, and then you do this, and then you do that, and then you'll be good. And then you'll be happy.
I mean, you could, but you'd get sued.
Right. So there would be a lot of people that would be like, that doesn't flow. That hasn't been my story.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right? There are a lot of people that will say, I can sit here and be like, this is my story, and this is what I did, and so this is what you should do. Not going to work. Everybody's different.
All right, I got a third one for you.
Go for it.
You guys ready? This one's a little bit less serious and more I think philosophical here, and a little medical. So, why are people so against natural alternatives to psychiatric medications? OP says, I have been prescribed a number of psychiatric medications. None have worked well for me at all. All of the things over the course of a half of a decade, and nothing has helped me long term. I've been told my brain is so sensitive to medications that even the lowest doses possible have adverse side effects and make it all worse. So I have to look for more natural remedies and hope for something that will help. Why are people so against that? How do you guys both feel? Both of you guys give me a good example. Like, how do you feel about the idea of taking a medication long term that alters, whether good or bad?
Well, I gotta know
your state of mind.
What's gonna change. You're gonna get rid of your depression, but your pinky is gonna twitch. Start gonna twitching for the rest of your life. Like, you know what? I'll take it. I'll take that. Yeah. But what if you started stuttering?
How do you overcome that fear of like the unknown? I guess let's pivot that question. So how do you guys in that situation? How would you face that if you were to be told, hey, you have to be on this medication that makes you feel normal start very again?
Slow. Like, I'll just put my toes in the water per se. If I start with this and then I feel no different, but I can see the side effects, I'm not taking that again.
My therapist and I had a conversation similar to this. I've been against taking medication, where even cold medication. I didn't start taking cold medication until like recently, like maybe last year or so. Because
so you're the reason I've been sick all these years, huh?
Right. The reason why I haven't is because somehow, some way, I gained the idea of if I start taking medication for every time I'm sick, my immune system's gonna rely on it, and then when I'm gonna get sick more often, and then it's gonna be I'm gonna literally need it. Like, I don't want to become dependent on it. Mm. So there's a fear. Like, what is that really? Like, it's a fear of dependency.
You think it might also be a fear of losing yourself?
Sure. A loss of control, perhaps.
Yeah.
Yep.
Perhaps. Yeah. I think that's the real fear.
See, I feel like maybe for me personally, like for me, it's a very similar line, but I think I'm like more. I'm more interested in like, what if I could have more of that control of not, it sounds weird, but you know what I mean?
I get what you're saying.
More clarity in those moments, you know? And then there's days I think about it, I'm like, no, I love who I am, you know? But then there's days where I'm like, God, I hate who I am.
So then I don't want to become dependent on it and have a fear of losing control. And alcoholism also this is another reason why I'm not a heavy drinker. Is because of loss of control. Similar thing, right?
Yeah.
My way of having control is to decide what I take and what changes me and what doesn't. That's my answer. That's not to say that you're a different person.
Yeah.
So your answer is gonna be different, and it doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means it gives an insight as to why you are the way you are.
Like, growing up, I never take medications for like cold and stuff like that. Never. The only pills I take is for like headache because it really bothers me.
Yeah.
That's about it. But as far as like drinking or stuff like that, like, or weed or other substances, like, I know my family used to tell me all the time when I was little, oh, you do even a little weed, you go into jail for so many years. Your family are gonna give up on you. You're gonna become a bum, yada yada yada. Even if it was like the smallest thing, which is weed nowadays is like nothing compared to methamphetamine, compared to this and that. Having
that be the way that you were raised, how do you think that affects your perspective on this?
I feel like the way my parents explained to me is like, if you're doing this, you're done. So that means you should not trust things like that, those type of substances.
So does that make you kind of like inherently kind of like kind of wary of
correct.
Meds?
It used to be that when I was little, but not anymore.
I have a question about that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you think then the fear in that is the fear of rejection, of like, my family's not going to accept me if I take these things, and so maybe.
Correct. Yeah. When I was little, definitely that was one of them. I didn't want to go to jail. I didn't want my life to end or anything like that. But the more I grew up, I realized nothing that I think can ever make me addicted.
Yeah. So you'd say you like don't have that addictive
like I smoked cigarettes for like a couple weeks.
Right.
I just really gave up on it. I'm like, this is stupid. I feel like everything.
God, I wish.
I couldn't do that. You know why? Because I have an addictive personality. So what I do.
Wait, but what makes you think that? Or do you say that because you know you have it, or
because of how I attach myself to things I enjoy? So like, let's say, for example, let's say exercise, right?
Okay.
There was a point in time when I was in the Marine Corps, I went from, I dropped, when I went to boot camp, I was 180 pounds, 186 pounds. When I came home and checked into my unit, I was like, this isn't enough. And then I went and started running every day. And I started, you could even, I don't know if you could call it like an eating disorder, but I became addicted to the results. I became addicted to like, oh, I could drop more. And
I think that's the definition of an eating
why
disorder.
would you get fixated on the weight and not the shape, the way you look?
I became obsessed with my looks. And so I guess like that's a form of body dysmorphia.
Well, like, on top of that, you would kind of let like a lot of other things go emotionally and physically. I know that you told me that you would like have like a mess organizing stuff because of this at a certain point. Mm-hmm. So I feel like you may have not seen it on the surface, and even like you describing it to Deian, like Deian doesn't know. He's like, well, what do you mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like,
but then you see it. Yeah,
it's a different like form of thinking, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so that's how trauma affects everybody. It's just like a different language. And so anyway, when I was obsessed with like the results of like, oh, like, wow, I look a lot leaner.
How did you move past that? Like how, cause I know now I know you as this person that is so very, like maybe you don't, the whole organization thing or whatever, maybe you've got some other stuff, but at least, between you and I, you've been very, on track. But like for one thing and one thing only, and for the longest I've ever seen you like that. And it's been a complete 180 to that same attitude that you're describing here. So like, how did you, I guess, find that?
First of all, I went to therapy. That was primarily what made me realize that certain things that I did were not normal. Like certain things that not healthy perhaps is the better word.
Nothing we do is normal. Let's be clear there. But yeah, the healthy part. Yeah. That's a good point.
So it wasn't healthy for me. And I realized that I tied my appearance to my self-worth, which is what I think a lot of people who struggle with eating disorders and body dysmorphia often struggle with, is the feeling of like my self-worth is tied to my appearance. And I think that a lot of people might have that idea and why we idealize beauty. For me, the way that I knew that it wasn't healthy for me is I was willing to run through, like when I was injured, I knowingly was starving myself, like where I was like, I was hungry and I was like, I want to eat. And I would prohibit myself from eating.
It's almost like, are you doing it for the looks or are you doing it for yourself? And I think the looks is what drove you for so long, but yourself is more, sure. Like, and I think this actually almost ties perfectly back into what you said, Deian, believe it or not. If you look at the whole picture, like the macro of life, right? It's every little thing. So it's like, yeah, sure. Like you're doing it for the looks, but like, are you doing it for you? Because if you're doing it for the looks and you're just doing it so you can you can lose another 100 pounds and finally reach your goal weight, why do you want to reach that goal weight? Is it because you're obsessed with looking skinny? Is it because you can't take that balance that in your mind over what, you want to eat versus what, you want to look like versus if that makes you feel good? Why does that make you feel good? There's got to be a core, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, whether, you do have body dysmorphia or whether you just want to be the best athlete in the world. Like there's, like you said, that gray area is so nuanced. So, I think there has to be more conversation, but I think like individually for you guys, like what does that path look like?
My identity was tied to the Marine Corps for a long time. I feel like I didn't really have one before. So in my eyes, Marines are what I saw, which was guys in lean and dress blues and always look good, always lean. And this is the promise I made to myself and this is the difference between healthy and not healthy, is I said to myself when I resized all of my uniforms, when I dropped down, I went from 180 out of boot camp 164 and dropped to at my lowest 149 pounds. Right, still within healthy limits.
Yeah,
right?
But like knowing your build and knowing how you were like growing up, man, whoa.
But what I was doing to achieve that is what was unhealthy. So I was like, well, this is my identity now, and so I'm never going to get my dress uniforms remeasured for the 6 years that I'm in. I will stay this lean for 6 years. Like, that's what I said to myself. I will not allow myself to have to retape or remeasure my uniforms.
Now, if that were to happen today, how would you react differently, and why?
So today, actually, what I do is I'm not 149 pounds anymore, right? Obviously.
Wait, what?
I miss
You've been lying to me this whole time. Give me your driver's license.
Exactly. So when I'm hungry, I eat, right? Like, I'm not going to starve myself.
Correct.
The Marine Corps is not my identity. I am myself. And who is that? And that's what I've been discovering. And in discovering that, I don't feel the need to be that identity.
When you think of a Marine, you have all these ideas like best runner, strong, etc., etc., etc.
Yep.
So if I was to present myself as that, you would see me weak, like, because I cannot run this fast, I cannot do as many pull-ups. You're basically, whatever you think of Marines, I will share that for you because of the way I am. And then I needed to build that up in order to keep that standard.
What's your one piece of advice for people that are struggling with reaching out?
If you have to ask yourself, should I reach out to somebody? The answer is yes. Who do you reach out to? Do you have anyone that will listen? If the answer is yes, reach out to that person. If the answer is no, find someone who will. It sounds pretty simple, but it's if the answer is no, the answer is incredibly difficult. The next step. Most people will pause. Most people pause at no. So if the answer is no, find someone who will.